So the slasher horror genre has been around for about 60 years now, with classics like Psycho, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Scream, and Friday the 13th. It's been going pretty strong for a while. But all of these movies pretty much follow the same premise, that being someone walks around with a pointy weapon and chases after teenagers. But what if someone tried to change the game? Inaviolentnature is a horror movie that reimagines the slasher genre by telling the movie from the perspective of the killer rather than the angsty renegade teens who make awful decisions. Now, hearing about this movie initially, I was immediately on board. Seeing some of the stills and hearing about the premise of the movie had me geeking for something new in the horror genre. Now, I didn't watch any trailers for this movie because it is only an hour and a half, so I wanted to go in fully blind and not knowing what was going to happen on the big screen. Instead, I wish I walked in actually blind. So let's get into the nitty-gritty of why Inaviolentnature does not work. For me, at least. Now, I really did not expect a slasher horror movie to make me laugh this much, but it actually wasn't just me because my whole theater was laughing throughout a lot of this movie. Now, when I'm talking about how this movie is guilty, I feel like some people might come to defend it with the excuse of, well, they're paying homage to the old slasher movies, and I think that one is just a lazy excuse, and two, it's not true because the director himself, Chris Nash, said he wanted this to be more of a vibe like No Country for Old Men, and that movie was not goofy. But anyways, let me pull myself out of the rabbit hole. Is this water bottle in the shot? No, it's not. The movie starts off with a shot of a necklace attached to a pole and some teenagers walk by and grab it, which causes our killer, Johnny, to slowly claw his way out of the ground. From there, he pretty much walks around the woods for about 5 to 10 minutes until finally he reaches the house of an immoral hunter and ta-da! His mother's necklace was inside of the house. The hunter and Johnny, they get into it, they start wrestling, tussling, but the hunter ends up running out of the house. Now keep in mind, there is nothing that has happened to the hunter yet. He is not injured, he has not been shot, nothing has happened to him. This is how the hunter runs away from the guy who just tried to murder him. Oh no, oh no, oh no, oh. If a guy is trying to murder you, you better get up and go. So obviously he kills the guy and goes back for the necklace in the house. When he goes to pick up the necklace, he looks at it and it says something like #1 motherfucker or something like that on it. Also, fun fact, this movie has absolutely no score at all. It is just leaves crunching and people dying pretty much the whole time. Now, I can see why they would choose not to have a score for this movie, but it really made for some awkward scenes and it created an empty space that was just not filled at all. Anyways, this movie just has a lot of moments like that. Scenes that completely pull you out of the movie due to bad writing decisions or bad acting, we'll get into that later, were made and felt more humorous than frightening. Now, I'm not going to stay in this area for long, but I did want to go over a few things that pertain to the acting in this movie. While this movie is not about the survivors or the teenagers that Johnny is killing, it's still a crucial part of believability to have some good performances from these people that are being murdered. But every sentence uttered or conversation had feels paper thin and completely falls flat, which again pulls you out of the movie. Earlier, I mentioned that whole scene with the hunter and Johnny running through the woods, but I wanted to mention another scene as well. Later on in the movie, we get a scene where two girls head down to the dock by the lake. One of them wants to go swimming and the other one wants to go do yoga or whatever. So the girl jumps in the lake and begs the other girl to get in by being all flirty. Ooh. But the other girl says she doesn't want to and heads off into the woods. What I didn't mention earlier is Johnny is in the same water as this girl, and right as the other girl leaves to go do yoga, yoink! Johnny pulls the girl down to the bottom of the lake. A couple seconds later, she pops back up out of the water and is still alive. Now I'm gonna give you two options on what this girl did when she popped back up out of the water after being dragged down. Is it A, she screams bloody murder and thrashes at the water with her last ditch effort to live? Or is it B, she pops out of the water, gives a little playful yelp, wah, and then just proceeds to go back into the water? It's B. The answer is B. Yeah. Man, there were just so many moments in this movie where the acting really sticks out and not in a good way and completely ruins the scene. Like when one of the teenagers is explaining the scary story of Johnny and how he's gonna haunt them. Or like I mentioned earlier, when the girl's trying to seduce the other girl to get in the water. Just key moments like that in the movie just make me... The pacing of Inaviolentnature is that of a turtle trying to walk to Christmas. This movie should just be called Walking in Forest Simulator, because without all of the scenes of him just walking in the forest, this would go from a 90-minute feature to a SpongeBob episode. Now, earlier I talked about how I didn't watch any trailers for this movie because it was such a short movie I didn't want to get spoiled. So after I watched the movie, I went home and was like, let's see what's in this trailer that everybody is talking about. The trailer is the exact same as this movie. He's just walking around the woods pretty much the whole time. Taking everything that I have previously been talking about, the reason that the pacing doesn't work is because there's no tension, there's no buildup. Johnny pretty much just walks through the woods until he hears a noise, and then he either walks around the teenagers or kills one of them. And even if he does kill one of them, it is either one of the most gruesome things you have ever seen, or they just die off camera. Like, this is a huge part of the movie that we are all here to see, and some of these people are dying off camera. At the end of this movie, one of the girls actually escapes from Johnny and ends up running away from him through the woods. Now, I just assume that she's running in circles because every 5 seconds while she's running, we just hear the sound of Johnny just bashing some dude's body in over and over again, and then it stops. And then it starts again. So she finally escapes the woods and comes out to the opening of a road. And then she just starts standing there. After running away, she just stands there. Now, you can say that she's in shock. That's fine, that's perfectly fine, but let me just keep going and then maybe it'll make sense why I'm talking about this. So she finally starts walking away. Oh, this movie ain't damn walking, I swear. She finally starts walking away and a truck appears on the road. The woman in the truck picks her up and starts driving her to a hospital because she sees that she has been injured, she's hurt, she's freaking out. Anyways, after she gets in the truck with this woman, from barely escaping death, this lady that picks her up starts yapping for about 10 minutes straight. And I'm not joking, it is literally about 10 minutes. She starts yapping about her brother who got mauled by a bear but ended up surviving, and just says like, well, some animals, they just murder for no reason. Now, I assume that her story is supposed to relate to Johnny and how he also kills for no reason, but holy shit, she could have just summed that up in like 20 seconds. Now, earlier when I mentioned how she was in shock, this is where that comes into play. After this lady's been driving her for about 10 minutes yapping her head off, she realizes that this girl's leg is bleeding profusely, and she's like, yo, we gotta stop the bleeding, we gotta do something. So she pulls the truck over and the girl starts freaking out. She doesn't want to get killed by the guy that was chasing her, but they've been driving in the opposite direction for like 10 minutes straight. I don't know how this guy's gonna kill you. They try to build this whole suspense like Johnny is sitting behind her in the woods waiting to kill her, but he don't got no special powers. He can't be morphing like Jason Voorhees. So I don't know, there was no suspense built there where they tried to build it. Now, despite everything I've said, man, there are really some good things about this movie. One thing a lot of people are talking about are some of the kills. One kill especially was absolutely insane. Like, Mortal Kombat needs to learn something from them here. So Johnny walks up to the girl that is doing yoga on the edge of a cliff, because where else would you want to do yoga at? Johnny impales this girl's stomach with her hand, slams a hook into her head, turns her around, grabs the chain that's connected to her hook through her stomach, pulls the chain through her stomach, and pulls this girl's head through her own stomach. I cannot make this up. That was probably one of the coolest kills I've seen in any movie ever. And while the acting is not good, I loved how in the background of some of these scenes with Johnny walking around, that we can hear the campers talking like it's a movie and slowly figuring out that somebody is hunting them. So they'll say something like, did you not see the guy in the background of the photo? Or we overhear the park ranger explaining to the kids how they're supposed to defeat Johnny. Another positive is the sound design goes crazy here. The sound of his axe hitting the flesh, the chains, the way that the leaves crunch, the ambience of the forest, just some raw and amazing choices for sound design here. But really, other than that, that's pretty much it. I can appreciate the director Chris Nash for taking a stab, pun intended, at changing the slasher horror genre, but unfortunately for me, it does fall flat, and I just left feeling unsatisfied. With awkward pacing, some bad acting, and seeing the back of a head walk through the woods for about 3/4 of a movie, this just wasn't my cup of tea. Now, before I end this video, I do want to say I took my wife to go watch this movie with me, and she had some choice words for how she thought and felt about this movie, so babe, go ahead and take it away.
Hi guys, I did not know I'd be on camera today. Here we are. I had a 45-minute phone call with Social Security, and I actually enjoyed listening to that music more while I was on hold than the movie itself. to just sum her up real quick, thank you.
But anyways, thank you guys for watching the video. I do appreciate it. Before I wrap up though, I do want to say I'm not a horror movie YouTube guy. I actually was writing my script for my next video, and while writing it, I went and watched this movie, and I was like, man, I should make a YouTube video. Actually, my wife told me I should make a YouTube video about this. So here we are. Don't get mad at me. These are just my opinions, all right? If you're typing in the comments right now about how pissed you are that I did not like this movie, it's just my opinions. Don't get mad at me. Anyways, thanks for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye. Here we go. We're done.
Bye-bye.